This is the 40 Days for Life podcast with your host, Sean Carney.
Hello, and thank you for joining us today on the 40 Days for Life podcast. I'm Sean Carney, the president of 40 Days for Life, and your host for this podcast, which is dedicated to helping you end abortion where you live, supporting families who go through miscarriage. Miscarriage often gets overlooked, I think, by a lot of people, even in the pro-life movement. So we will do a deep dive today with a very, very special guest, and someone who I have tried to overlook my entire life is my co-host, Mr. Steve Karlen.
Glad to be here, Sean. I think this episode I would describe in the words of the great George Costanza as the worlds are colliding.
Due to listener and viewer feedback, we have Laura Karlen on the podcast. And no, this does not mean Mary Lisa will be joining us. So I'm trying to protect myself. How are you doing?
Great.
This is so great. This is like a little getaway for you and Steve.
It's super fun.
Where'd y'all vacation? The 40 Days for Life podcast.
That's right.
It's pretty lame. What is the most annoying thing that Steve does, like in your personal life, that you want to share publicly on the podcast? Really drives you crazy, and you're sitting there going, he's just not going to change his whole life.
Well, he maintains that he picks up after himself, and he's the best one in the house at picking up.
It's true.
Getting deep.
Except
fast.
that he doesn't. He leaves stuff out. So there you go, babe. I love you.
We had a few Christmases ago, you know the song from the Grinch, Dahu Dore, where all the Who's are saying like, Dahu Dore? So I put that on loop and just waited to see what would happen, just playing through the whole house. And Laura appeared to be the last one to notice. And then she later told me, no, I knew the whole time. I'm just used to you being annoying.
Which became a best-selling T-shirt at 40daysforlifegear.com. Oh, my gosh. That's great. That's great. Well, congrats on finding such a great man.
Yeah.
I say that with all sincerity. And I mean, believe me, he had his pick. There's a lot, as George Costanza said, there's a lot of women that would like to be in your position right now. She says, name one, and he walks off. Oh, gosh. Okay, so by the way, if you have not read Steve's book, This Is When We Begin to Fight, please order it. It's a great book. We're going to have some parts of that in this podcast, but if you want the full picture with Steve's great creative writing skills, please go and get that book, This Is When We Begin to Fight. How long have y'all been married?
Almost 20 years. He'll be 20 in June.
Oh, that's awesome. That's really awesome. What are y'all doing?
We were just talking about that. We haven't decided yet.
Yeah.
We came to Texas. I mean, so what more do we need to do, really?
I know we had Mexican food and all that stuff, but I think 20 years you got to do something a little better.
What did you do?
We went to California. We went to Orange County and got away, and it was a super fun trip because Mary Lisa was determined to try to golf with me. And it was actually a bonding experience. It could have led in her leaving me or something. But it was super fun, and she had never golfed before. So it's funny, I found this course that was near the hotel, and I call them. Mary Lisa and I are both left-handed. Mm-hmm. And I wasn't gonna take clubs. And I thought, I usually call ahead, and I'm like, hey, I'm gonna rent clubs, but I golf right, so there's no need for that. But she golfs left. So I called the guy, and I was like, hey, my wife is going to play golf with me. I need female left-handed clubs. Thinking he's going to oh, yeah, cool, not a problem. He's like, okay. This is 3 months out. Thank you for calling. We will start arranging that now.
Oh, wow.
A lot of times we don't have them. And I was like, I'm really glad I called. But we had a blast. She loved it. And she said, okay, I get it. You can snack and drink beer and play a sport. Who wouldn't be into that?
Right on.
Did you teach her that it's all on the hips?
Yeah, I was doing the whole she's never golfed with me, so she doesn't know how terrible I am. It was perfect. So I was like, this is how you do it.
Round and round, up and down, feel the flow, all good things.
All good things. Of course, then I start slicing, and she's like, is it supposed to go in the woods? I'm like, shut your mouth. Focus on your own game. Yeah.
I hit it off of Bigfoot's foot.
Absolutely. It was a lot of fun, though. It was a lot of fun, and so I think we were gone 4 nighs. So it was
great.
We got married over the Christmas break, so we celebrate our anniversary in June, so we could have more time off and stuff. So yeah, okay. Well, I look forward to hearing the plans that y'all come up
If
with.
we make it to 20 after I just told I was a slob and blame everybody else.
You may not make it to St. Patrick's Day. So I was told- she didn't say you were a slob. She said you think you pick up and you don't.
No, I'm amazing.
Sure.
That's it.
About that.
Okay, so let's get into this. Is we've talked about miscarriage a lot on the podcast, but there's two extremes, which is I think I will throw the baby boomers under the bus, as I'm a fan of doing. Maybe it's because their parents were in the war and they're just a little bit, there's a little bit of like, oh, you'll have other kids, or it just gets blown off. And then I think that there's another category of people who don't know how to deal with a miscarriage, and it's almost like they're Googling, how should I feel right now? So with you, you've basically started a support ministry for women. And before we get into that, for the listeners, I know we've talked about it, but as a refresher, share some of y'all's story of your experience with miscarriage and how it's impacted your family.
Yeah, sure. Well, we were told shortly before we got married that we wouldn't have any children. So because I had polycystic ovarian syndrome. And so when Peter was on the way a month after we got married, I thought, well, this is great. We're going to have 12. I'm good German breeding stock, and this is going to be amazing. And then we were somewhat buying into the kind of the contraceptive mentality that you can turn your fertility on and off. But we were honestly like terrified in the beginning and that we might conceive right away after having Peter. So that was a whole debacle. But then after a number of years, Peter's turning 2, he's turning 3, and there's not more babies. And so we are beginning to get worried. But then one day in April, we find out that I'm pregnant, and we're so excited. And it was a delightful moment until the bleeding started one day, and we had no idea what was going on because we thought that pregnancy was easy. We didn't know of anybody who had had losses, and we're getting involved in the pro-life movement, and we're so focused on people who are choosing to end the lives of their babies that we never imagined that in God's mysterious plan, some babies wouldn't make it to term, even though the parents desired that very deeply. So one morning I started bleeding, and by the end of the night, we lost our first baby, Gianna Maria. And it was very challenging, even though we were well connected in the pro-life movement at that point and could see a priest right away and have people come to our aid. We were still bewildered and frightened and not exactly sure what to do next. And a priest friend was there for us, which was amazing, and kind of gave us some guidance. And you could share a little bit more about.
And how old was Peter at the time?
He would have been 4?
Okay.
He would have just turned 4. 3.
3.
Yeah.
Feels like longer in retrospect, but
Yeah.
yeah. So it was, we had been hoping to have a second child and just wasn't happening, and we were young, so it felt like a lot longer than it probably was. And our whole 40 Days for Life community, which we were leading the campaign at that time in Madison, they all knew that we were hoping for another child. And so the moment that, I know some people wait to share until they get through the danger zone of the first trimester, and that's fine, to each his own. But we kind of felt like, hey, this is what we've been waiting for. Everybody's been praying for us. We're going to shout it from the rooftops and share that we are expecting again. So everybody knew. And that meant that then 16 days later, when we found out that we had lost the baby, then we had to share it with everybody else. And something that always kind of, this is in Texas, I can say, it's stuck in my craw. Do you say that in Texas? Yeah, it's stuck in my craw, was you'd hear abortion supporters say things to the effect of like, oh, well, they don't really believe the fetus is a human life. They're not having funerals for their miscarried babies. And so we decided to do that. And Father Mark, who you've met, came out, and we were able to do a mass and a burial, and we invited the pro-life community if they wanted to attend. And some of the people in our 40 Days for Life community, they put on like a little luncheon. It was wonderful. There was cake. There was just like you'd expect at a funeral. Mm-hmm. And it really, I think, it did a couple of things. You can elaborate on this, Laura, but I think, A, it dignified and recognized the life of a child who could have otherwise easily been forgotten. And second, I think it, particularly for the heart of a mother, legitimized the grief that was felt at that loss.
Yeah, because I think that's the problem. And I think it's something actually our generation is fixing. You're certainly doing it with this ministry. But am I supposed to feel bad? I feel really bad. I feel like a loss, but, my child wasn't hit by a train. I didn't have an abortion. I miscarried. And there's this sort of lostness. And from my perspective, hearing your story, and my brother, they miscarried at like 24 weeks and did have a funeral with little Leo. We miscarried our 9th child, as you know, in 2021. And it is, I always took the pro-life stance of just miscarriage as this huge loss from people that I knew. Then, of course, it happens to you, and it does. It's like you got kicked in the gut, and there's a certain emptiness there that can't be, glossed over. Talk about, particularly with people in y'all's own family, we have friends that basically, I think they've miscarried 6 or 7 times. And they just, the emotional strain of it, that they're not even trying to have any more kids. They can't go through with it because of just the mental and spiritual exhaustion. How do you help people cope with that?
Sure. Well, the biggest thing for me, the St. Catherine ministry is sort of that triage care, that initial care of helping to recover your baby, deciding what to do for burial. But a huge part of it is just acknowledging the reality, which is this is a loss. It's okay to be sad. Furthermore, the devil is going to try to tempt you into minimizing it, into doubting yourself. Are your emotions correct? And as far as one of my goals is to help people turn back towards the Lord. So these are all very practical things, but the real hidden mission is you're at a crossroads. The devil's tempting you to harden your heart and to fall into despair. And so what I'm trying to do by showing a little bit of compassion is turn you back towards the Lord who opened his heart, who died on the cross. So remaining open to God's love and the faith and taking that critical moment as a step towards the Lord rather than back. So what you're saying, sadly, sounds like people who are then closing themselves off to what the Lord wants to do when he does his best work through suffering. And the crucifix is obviously proof positive of that.
And acknowledging, like you said, that this is a cross.
Yeah.
And it's a cross that he's calling you to carry. It's easier for, said than done, but that's a very real thing. I think too, if anything ever happens to my kids, I'm always going to blame myself. I think that's parental nature. But I've seen so many parents, particularly moms, who don't accept that this happens.
Yeah.
Like you didn't do anything wrong.
Correct.
And I think that women always blame themselves for everything. And that can be from the devil also.
Especially now you've got all the nutrition stuff. And did you have the right balance of carbs and gluten and seed oils and stuff like that? I think people are getting a little bit overthinking it.
Yeah, and my message to them is you entrust that to God's mercy. I mean, these women love their children. It's so evident, and just reassuring them it's not your fault. You did everything in your power, and especially the moms that are able to recover and bury their babies, and the fathers that are there to support their moms, and in your case, dig the hole that we buried our babies in. You do the best that you can as parents, and then it is important to entrust to God's mercy the rest of it.
What was the point where you decided, okay, I'm gonna actually go on offense and try to reach more women who have been through the same as we've been through?
Having a lot of friends go through miscarriages and hearing about miscarriages years after the fact, which is not too late to find healing and to sort of set it right in terms of remembering your baby. And I just realized I don't want to do this in a haphazard way. I want to do it in a more systematic way. And I honestly, the Holy Spirit was really moving things along. And I always am at peace because it's his timing and it's his priorities more so than mine.
Well, Laura mentioned early on that when we went through, because we've had 2 miscarriages, and the first one, there was just it wasn't on our radar. We weren't thinking about it. There's kind of the Hollywood feeling of like, oh, when we live happily ever after, we had some infertility and now Laura's pregnant again and everything is great. And then when it doesn't go according to script, there is, I would say, and you can speak to this a little bit more, but there's some real practical questions, some of the nitty gritty questions about like, how do you recover your baby?
Right.
And so that's part of what you're up to.
Yeah, I'm sitting down with a woman and getting out a kit and saying, okay, when the time comes, when the bleeding happens, this is what you need to do. And this is a short window of time when you can do this for your baby. And if you don't, if you're not able to for some reason, yes, you can trust it to God's mercy, but let's spring into action. And that's really what I'm trying to do in partnering with a Catholic doctor to catch women as soon as they get the bad news. And then if I've helped a mom, then she is sharing about the ministry with her friend as soon as she hears that friend is going through the miscarriage. So trying to be proactive, because it is a small window of time where you can act, but that's even if you're not able to act, the Lord knows your heart and the love that you have for the child.
Okay, so you take them through that process, which is the nitty gritty of just, what do I do?
Correct.
What, after that, if they're able to have a burial or whether they're not able to have a burial, is there, I think miscarriage is definitely on the list of everybody's like, I'm so sorry that happened. And an hour later, they forgot about it and they're never going to bring it up to you ever again.
Yeah.
Which in some ways, big picture death is like that in general.
Correct.
The family moves on, you have to move on, but the world also moves on. How do you follow that up? Like, is there a balance of, I want to help her, but I don't want to be the lady that's reminding her that she miscarried and so we got to go have coffee.
Yes. Yeah. I don't want to be the angel of death for these women, honestly. And there have been a couple times where I'm bringing up a miscarriage kit to a house and I think I should just dress in all black because I might as well be like the angel of death.
It's like the Vietnam, like the soldier shows up at the door type of thing.
Yeah.
Gosh.
It's a reminder too.
Yeah. I think the compassion comes across pretty loud and clear. So I think that helps it. But I mean, I'm forming friendships with these women and trying to give them some space, but yet remaining in contact with them. So I have a sequence of how I work with them and try to give some time in between. And yes, not to be every time I see them or every time I have an interaction, how are you doing? How are you feeling? But it is the beginning of a friendship, and it's been really beautiful the way the Lord has used people coming into and that's the basis of our friendship. So I think that it tells that this is something that people genuinely appreciate and that it's not a pushy thing. And I don't want it to be a pushy thing.
Right. Well, I think also, as much as I don't think you should just wear black and be the angel of death, but also y'all represent hope. I mean, you have living children. You've gone through multiple miscarriages, but it's not this doom and gloom like, you're going to end up like us. We have no children. That's not the case. There is sort of the hope, and y'all had the fortitude to say, we're going to keep trying. We're going to, we want to see what God has in store.
It's been our experience that the Lord transforms our suffering into joy, right? And he promises to wipe away all tears and make all things new again. And in our case, the burial that we had for our baby brought about a beautiful rosary garden where now there are dozens of babies buried. So even in a very practical way, the Lord has taken something that was incredibly sad for us, but has made it a light for other people, such that I'm referring people to the same place that we buried our baby. And then I can think of, for our second baby that we lost, Gerard, our son Peter took that as his confirmation name and has an affinity for Saint Gerard as a result. So you can see the Lord taking something and transforming it. And I say to the ladies that I meet, the Lord will transform this. I can't say how and I can't say the timing, but he will. He's promised to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know for us, and I know now, especially Peter taking Saint Gerard, who's the patron saint of infertility, correct?
And pregnant mothers, expectant mothers. Yeah. It's beautiful.
Asked him for help a lot. But I think the other kids help make it easier. I know that was our case, that we have a baby in heaven. We named our daughter Avila because we miscarried on the feast of St. Teresa of Avila. Beautiful. And so, she's like part of the family, and they'll mention her. We ask for saints' intercession. We'll mention St. Teresa of Avila along with the other kids, saints, and they get it. And the smaller children made it easier for us.
Yeah, some families are really worried about letting their children know. Kids love the idea of having a sibling, even if it's a sibling in heaven. So
no, Timothy takes the inappropriate comment of the century because he's like, yeah, we have a baby sister in heaven because it died in mom's tummy. She died in mom's tummy. And she's like, remember, mommy, when that happened? And of course, the older siblings are like, he's like, he's 3. He doesn't know what he's saying. Okay. But practically, everything he's saying is true. But I do. I think it's such a beautiful thing when your other kids can relate to it. And also, I think when we were somewhat same position as y'all, when we were engaged, I forget what it was, but there was something with Mary Lisa where her doctor said, you may really struggle with fertility. And we had Bridget. And then I remember him saying, he was a friend of ours, so we weren't like, oh, this doctor doesn't know what he's talking about. And my father-in-law is an OBGYN, and he had kind of suggested the same thing. I forget what issue she had. And when Bridget was born, he said, it's going to be very difficult for y'all to conceive again for a while. And she got pregnant a month later, which for the listeners, yes, that's possible. So Bridget and Bailey are, when you do the math, because Bailey came 3 weeks early, they're 10 and a half months apart. Wow. They're true Irish twins. They were both born in 2006 because even the labor and delivery nurse said, girl, didn't you have that baby? Mary Lisa's like, this is another one. And then we had Seamus a year later. Yeah. So we had 3 under 3 and we're in the hospital. And I told Mary Lisa, I said, I'm not a doctor. Can we just move past the infertility issue and all that?
Clearly.
But yeah, I think that when you're going back to the kids part, when you bring your kids into the conversation, I think will help them if they ever go through a miscarriage, that this isn't a foreign thing. It's something we talk about. It's something that, you kind of grew up with, and it's not so. I've had relatives that we find out like 20 years later, and they're like, we just didn't think we could say anything to the family. Yeah. And is that common?
Yes. I mean, you have people who didn't share about the pregnancy, so then to share the bad news, can really, people can't wrap their minds around that. But when I mentioned kind of the spiritual warfare aspect of it, it is very powerful to have other people able to support you. Yeah. So if you're okay with sharing the bad news and people will be there to support you, do it, because then you're not alone with your thoughts, or you and your spouse are alone with this burden that you're carrying in secret.
What's your experience? I know there's no wrong answer on this, but what's your experience with somebody goes through a miscarriage? How many of them will announce their pregnancy? Or will they kind of hold on to it thinking, okay, until I'm like second trimester, I'm not saying a word?
There's an emotional roller coaster after you have a pregnancy, after a miscarriage. And we've learned that you just have to entrust that pregnancy to the Lord. You have no control over it. Anyway, we've always felt like we want the prayers. We want people to be there with us. So I think if I have the chance to advise a woman on this, don't keep it secret. Ask for prayers. You don't need to shout it from the rooftops. We were very excited and very eager, but don't go it alone.
Some of this comes out of, we mentioned our friend Father Mark, who came down and just really ministered to us after that first miscarriage, and came when we did the mass and the burial and everything. And he had a remark. He just said, this is part of the new evangelization. And people didn't talk about it. And whatever reason that is, I don't know. But he said, this is kind of cutting edge of the new evangelization, in that no one's doing it. And so we need to do it to be there and support. And Laura mentioned the burial ground where our babies are buried, and now so many others. That was established by Father Rick Heilman, who a lot of podcast listeners will be familiar with that name. He's pretty well known across the country. And so this was kind of we wanted it to be something of a beacon for people, because there's remarks that people make that aren't intentionally harmful, but they do cause some pain. Like, well, how far along are you? Oh, so it wasn't really that bad then. Like, yeah. Okay.
It's the long list, which we've discussed on other topics at this table, but you don't know what to say, just don't say anything.
Yes. Or even a family member who was saying, oh, are you sure you were actually pregnant? Like, it just doesn't, it's not, there's no bad intentions, but it doesn't help. And so
that's part of the suffering, though.
Yeah.
Just, okay. Yeah. People say dumb stuff.
But this is sort of helping, I think. Laura calls it St. Catherine Ministry, because we found out, so St. Catherine of Siena is the patron of just about everything, but one of those things is miscarriage, and that ended up being the day that we suffered the first pregnancy loss. Yeah. And so she called it St. Catherine Ministry, and now it's sort of okay, here's where we were kind of bewildered, weren't really sure what to do. So we talked about the practical stuff in terms of helping you recover the remains of your child and bury the child. But then, Laura, why don't you talk just a little bit more about the things you're providing? Because this isn't like a 501c3 that Laura started. There's no fundraising campaign. This is, in my opinion, I'm not involved in it, so I'm not pumping myself up. I will pump Laura up, though. This to me is very sort of Acts of the Apostles biblical ministry, just someone seeing a need in the community and stepping up to love on these women and these families. So talk about some of the other things that you're providing when you get the call and we just finished dinner and you're like, hey, I got a mom, I got to go help. What's that like?
So I mentioned that window for recovering your baby is pretty small. So trying to get out to a woman immediately. And we cry together, honestly. A lot of it is just hearing their story. And I'm doing a training because I will be offering a miscarriage support group through a Catholic grief ministry called Redbird Ministry. So fortunately, I'm finding that everything I've sort of done by intuition is actually right. I'm so grateful.
That's good.
So my intuitions, because of the Holy Spirit, I think, have been right of just sitting with women, asking them about their story, sharing my story, usually crying together. And my heart is moved. But I was reflecting on this recently, and it's actually in the gospel for today, for daily mass today. Jesus is moved by pity by the leper who says, if you will, you can make me clean. And Jesus reaches out and touches the leper, which made him ritually unclean. And Jesus is moved by pity. It's right there in the words. And that's really what I am doing, is I'm moved by pity because in the Lord through me. And I'm just reaching out and trying to be human with people. It's not a clinical setting. It's not medical. I say I'm not a medical person. I'm not a nurse, but I'm just a human being who's willing to accompany you through the darkness of this.
That's so good. And even you talking about the DNC or whatever's needed, it just shows the importance. We have been spoiled with great pro-life OBGYNs.
Yes.
And so, when she was miscarrying, when Mary Lisa realized this was happening, and really our OB just saved us because we were and she's our friend, like from college, and she's an NFP OBGYN in Houston. And I mean, without her, we would have just been lost or calling relatives or whatever who have been through this. And it really, I think people do get pressured into stuff, or they don't understand the process. If the doctor says, no, we have to do this, you want it to come from a place you trust.
Right.
And that's just not always the case, unfortunately. I've been very, I'm not medicine. We've had very, very good doctors, very, very great labor and delivery experiences, great OBGYNs our whole life. But I can relate to those who don't have that, because that would be terrifying. If you're going through this emotional roller coaster, plus you're like, is this what we're supposed to do? I don't know.
It's just lacking bedside manner too. Like bedside manner is a thing, but with miscarriage, they get so antiseptic and clinical about it. So the second miscarriage we had, there were some complications. Laura was hemorrhaging, needed to go to the hospital in the middle of the night. And so they're there asking her about her product of conception. And my wife is there devastated.
You're just like at the ER.
Yeah. Yes.
She's like devastated, emotionally, intense physical suffering on top of it, growing weaker from blood loss. And I remember her being like, you mean my baby?
Right.
I don't know if they can hear it through the microphone, but it's like whispered, you mean my baby?
Yeah.
They wouldn't, in any other scenario, I don't think that happens.
No,
There's a little bit more self-awareness.
Well, I mean, you could go in for that sad ultrasound. The sad ultrasound is
Right.
the one where you don't see the heartbeat, or the baby hasn't grown. And you start that ultrasound appointment with, let's see your baby. And then it ends with, well, the tissue is still there. We'll have to take care of the tissue.
Yeah.
And that's devastating for a mom. She just needs to know it was her baby then, it's her baby now. It's her baby into eternity, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't know what they're supposed to say. There's some remains. I don't know, but I do feel, hopefully, there's a certain healthy amount of wokeness. I know you're a big woke guy.
Yeah.
I'm
DEI certified.
You're DEI certified.
You just need a ponytail.
That's right, the man bun.
Yeah.
But I have to think it's gotten better with the bedside manner of miscarriage than it was 30 or 40 years ago. Maybe it hasn't. I don't know. And y'all are in a different part of the country.
Yeah.
But that's pretty bad to say product of conception when you're going in miscarrying. There's usually like, I'm so sorry, this is what we're going to do, But that's really bad.
Laura, talk about some of the other stuff. You give away these kits to recover the babies and to bury the babies, but there are other tangible thing, and you talked about the emotional support and just sort of talking with them. Talk about some of the other tangible things that you're providing to these families.
Absolutely. Yeah. So one of the things that we provide is a gift. So it's an engraved ornament that has the baby's name and the date. And I'm very gentle about that because some people have just a lot of feelings about naming their babies, but I do encourage them. And actually, one of the ladies I worked with recently, she's become a friend through the course of, I mean, when you start off going through a miscarriage together, you're really close really fast because you're with them on a way of the cross. And she said to me, "Thank you for telling me to name my baby." She said it like fiercely, like low voice, like, "Thank you for telling me to name my baby. I wouldn't have done that." And then emblazoning that on the back of a ornament, or we have ours up all year round, of a wall hanging, is so important because once the baby's buried, and if there were no remains, immediately there's nothing to hold on to. There's not the pictures. There's not everything. Even writing a card to give to somebody who has a miscarriage, you need to read that sympathy card carefully because it's not a lifetime of memories or things like that. But that's one of the important things that I offer. And I drop off.
That's a good point.
I drop off roses for the moms. I was telling Steve just the other day, the women need to have something beautiful. They need to have something beautiful. So just loving on them is really important to me, and then checking in with them over the course of time, and then remembering those anniversaries. There was a mom recently who was remembering her baby, and so my prayer team lifted her up in prayer. So I've got a group of people. We pray. There's 7 of us, and we pray one day of the week specifically for the ministry. And I like to be able to share with the women I'm going through. I have a team of people, not by name, but that are praying for you right now, and that means the world to them because they feel forgotten. Because you can't look at them and see, oh, she had a miscarriage.
Right.
But it's a grief that is sometimes secret or only a group of people knows. And so to know that there's a team of people praying for you means a lot to these moms.
That's great, and so practical. Let's talk about the men. Is there a consistency? Because it's obviously different for men. Is there ever a disconnect? Because I know, and I have buddies that it's just kind of the way they are, but they're like, yeah, no, we miscarried. And they have pain, but either they're not going to show it or they're sort of upset that their wife is upset, but they're not mad at her. They're just dealing with it differently because men can just move on, as we know, of like, no, this happens, it's life. And the woman's sitting here going, but I physically experienced this. Is that common?
I think I've heard women say, he's dealing with it differently right now.
Okay.
So I think that you correct me because I am not a man, but I think the first of it is he wants to do it he would want to do it for her. Like, I don't want my wife to have to go through this miscarriage. We know it's coming. We don't know what day it's coming, but we know she's going to have to go through it. I'd like to suffer in her place.
Yeah.
So he's going to be fiercely protective of her and trying to make sure the physical side of it is handled. And I think it takes time to process those things. And even for the woman, I mean, she's initially trying to deal with the physical side of it, and it's only later that she can begin to process some of it. But I think that I would think it's more of a longer game for the man.
I think it's just different. I was actually surprised because Laura will go out and she'll sit down with these women, and sometimes it's an extended period of time. And I'm reminding myself, don't get annoyed that I want my wife home because she's doing something that is good and useful. But there's a lot of talk and a lot of emotions. And I think it would be overly simplistic to say that men don't want to talk and don't want to work through their emotions. But I think for me, and for a lot of the men that I know, it's sort of maybe we'll talk about for 5 minutes and then we'll spend the next 55 minutes discussing, LeBron or Jordan.
Yeah.
And that's kind of a way that we deal with stuff a little bit more.
Yeah. Yeah, because my emotions were very straightforward. I was heartbroken and then angry that I couldn't do anything.
Yeah.
I wasn't angry like, why is this happening to us? Because this happens. So I accepted it, but I was mad that Mary Lisa had to do everything and I couldn't really do anything. Kind of that we have these moments. Childbirth is one of them. Although you're not mad, you're just feeling the uselessness that is the male body, And then I had total peace. Like when it was over and the miscarriage was finished, we both had a lot of peace, which was a grace. And we thought, I remember thinking, you'll like this, of like, this isn't going to last. I have peace, but it's going to be gone in like 2 days or an hour. And it wasn't. But I remember feeling mad that I can't do anything. Yeah. You know?
Yeah.
And that's, it's very rare. This is a problem, I think, with men. I've been told by my wonderful wife, like, I don't want you to fix this. I just need to tell you, you know, or I need to complain, or I need to, and I'm like, no, we need to do this. She's like, I'm not actually asking for your help at all.
But it's simple. We could just do this and it'd be fun.
But I'm right. And I'm a genius. So, yeah, it is funny. But when you actually, you know, can't do anything, that's the worst, because our job is to protect, to provide, to solve.
And for us, I think at least the second one was a little bit different because Laura had the complications. I literally carried her to the car type of thing.
Wow.
And there were some things like that were necessary. And the first one, like, this is the first time that a baby had been buried at this new place and the arrangements weren't made. And so I'm out there with Father Mark digging the hole myself. So it felt a little bit of like you can put that energy into action, but it's not always the case, right? And so I think there's a humility to it of knowing, wow, the person that I love the most in the world is suffering more than she ever has before. And you're just there at the foot of the cross, like John and Mary. You're just there. It's all you can do is presence. And I think presence makes a difference. I think that's why you visiting these women is so powerful to them.
Yeah, I mean, you could do it over the phone, but if you can be there in person, and that's actually one of the reasons why I started the ministry, is there are great online resources and resources from other parts of the country, but the expense and the time that it takes to get your miscarriage kit that you ordered from New York, it might not get there in time, and it doesn't involve a person coming and saying, hey, let's talk about this. I'm going to try to prepare you so you know what to do, and then you're going to spring into action, and God is going to give you the grace. And just to your point about the way of the cross, that's how I even talk about it to women. Like, you are going to be going to your own Calvary when this starts, and you're going to pass through it, and the Lord is going to give you the grace that you need to make it through this suffering that no one can suffer it for you. You will have to get through it, but God provides.
There's also a bond, which is what your ministry is really, I think, thriving on, of this bond of women who have done it before. And it's the same in childbirth. Mm-hmm. You know, when a woman has her first baby, there's always the thought of your great-grandmother, like, you know, thousands of people today are doing this. Yeah. You know, women are doing this. You've never done it before, so it's scary as all get out, but you can do this. Yeah. Like, this is true women empowerment of you grew a baby, you conceived a baby, you grew a baby, and now you're going to deliver the baby and feed the baby. It's amazing. And when you go through complications with a pregnancy or through a miscarriage, you realize it's actually a miracle anybody's born. Okay. I mean, just like 1,000 things that have to go correct. But I think that sort of bold, you know, camaraderie that women have of being able to deliver a baby is also that women, long before you were alive, went through miscarriages, and they made it through. Mm-hmm. And that there's a toughness to motherhood that I think gets lost because we just have belittled motherhood so much. Yeah. But the women that are raising kids and having kids, they're like Navy SEALs of human beings. It takes tremendous sacrifice, and some do it and are CEOs, and that's great. Some don't, but just that is, you can interview moms that don't work or do work, and they're all going to say their greatest pride is raising their kids. Mm-hmm. And the sacrifices they made for their kids. And I think I think that brings a lot of consolation.
Absolutely. Yes. I mean, to be together with somebody, the devil wants to isolate us and bring us off on our own with our own thoughts. And Christ is about communion, right? And community. And that's where being there for each other, sharing, and then what an honor to me to have a friend tell another friend about my ministry. That's one of the greatest compliments I can receive, is that you thought it was helpful and wanted to bring someone else into knowing what to do. Knowledge is power in terms of when miscarriage happens. And so I'm thrilled that people find the help effective and are even recommending my ministry to other people.
Is it common? Because I've just noticed when we travel and go to Mass, and I've been part of parishes where you go in the bulletin and they have something like this. They have a support group, or are you going through a miscarriage? Do y'all find it more common?
I think it's getting to be common. This Redbird ministry that I mentioned is growing. It started in Louisiana, and they're using online programs to really spread things. And I'm starting this miscarriage support groups. I think that people are having the same idea of, yes, if we're pro-life, we need to be addressing miscarriage too. So I think it's part of what the Holy Spirit wants to do in these times. And I'm amazed, our son is Gen Z and raised in a faithful environment. This is something that he and his friends will be aware of. So they're not going to be bewildered like we were. And so I think it's more important than ever. And I've been partnering with a Catholic doctor so that I can refer people to him if there was a health issue that led to the miscarriage, or if there's worries about it. And then he's referring women to me so that when he has to tell them that sad news of a miscarriage, he can actually offer them something beyond just the bad news. I think it's needed. He has said to me, Dr. Clace has said to me, he said, make a 5-year plan because the demand for this is going to be incredible.
Wow.
And it has been. I was frankly surprised when Laura started this. I wasn't surprised about the practical stuff and flowers and the ornament and the gifts. And there's a book that she gives and all those sorts of things. I was surprised at the discussion about just the women wanting to talk about it. And some of that goes back, you'll remember, Laura, a number of years ago, there was a Catholic women's conference in Wisconsin, and Scott Hahn was speaking at it, and Laura loves Scott Hahn.
Oh, yeah.
Laura
I love me some Scott Hahn.
Yeah.
Laura was reluctant to go. I'm like, why don't you want to go? This is like your favorite celebrity Catholic. And she said, it's a women's conference. I'm afraid there's going to be a lot of emotion and like giving each other back rubs and stuff like that.
It's not my style.
And so I was like, so the whole talking about it thing, I was surprised that, but she said, look, everybody, I mean, I can let you speak for yourself, but everybody has this fear of bringing up uncomfortable topics, but that's not what you found.
Right. I think people want to speak about the sadness, and they want the name of their child and the memory of their child to carry on. And so we avoid these things. We're silent about these things, but being present, if you don't know what to say, at least being present is there. But then being able to say, yes, this was a real loss. Yes, it's okay to cry. It makes all the difference in the world. So yes, there is a lot of tears, no back rubs, at least when I meet these women.
Right.
Maybe some hugs, but it's beautiful. And I think that women, and I think about one of my pro-life heroes, what did I love about her? She was tough as nails. Our Lady was tough as nails.
Mm-hmm.
Like, femininity is soft, and that's true, but it's also tough, right? And we go through amazing things. So, yeah, no back rubs, though. Thanks be to God.
That's right. I definitely don't want Scott Hahn giving me a back rub. Is there anything else, like if you, let's say, and that's probably guaranteed to happen, a woman's listening to this and she's miscarried and she feels like she's never either really dealt with it, or she feels like her husband moved on and she hasn't, or she may feel silly for bringing it up years later, like I'm supposed to be moving on. What's the first step? Like what should she do?
Well, she should know first it's not too late. So there is a window of time for recovering your baby's remains, true, but it is never too late to begin to acknowledge it. And I think we've heard the story of a gentleman who was putting together a memorial for his baby brother lost to miscarriage 45 years
40
ago.
40 Days for Life leader.
Yeah.
Wow.
Read the book and
Wow.
Yeah.
So as a result of that, he wants to acknowledge this baby that was never buried properly. So he's having a memorial, and his siblings all over the country are coming together to try to acknowledge this child. I think it's never too late. It's not silly. It was a loss, and God is there to transform it. And I'd be happy to be in touch with anybody who's going through that across the country.
Is there a taking it too far category if we look at it from the other side? And I haven't encountered that. I've heard about certain scenarios, but I haven't had it in my family where somebody's just constantly bringing up that they miscarried, and it depresses everybody around.
I mean, I think there can be concern. I think it is completely natural when you find out a friend is pregnant, and that hurts. But I think, as in anything else in the faith, do you lean into feeling sorry for yourself, or do you trust in God's plan for you? So I think if you are looking for the opportunity to despair, hey, miscarriage gives you a wonderful opportunity to despair, right?
Yeah.
But if you want to take the step forward towards Christ, it's an opportunity for growth and then just trust in his plan. And that's one of my messages is, Jesus, I trust in you.
One thing we've lived through on both sides of it is that we will have a sibling who is also pregnant at the same time, and they miscarry, and then when our baby's born, it's just a memory of like, oh, that we'd have these two cousins that are the same age, and when we miscarried, we had a nephew who would have been the same age, and just working through that. But it's always been, I think, a sort of a hopeful thing, because you lose a sibling or parent or grandparent. It's all those memories that you have with that person they're missing. And a miscarriage is on the opposite of how old would they be? Would they be, where would they go to college? What would their which of our other kids would they be like? You know, that, and I think that is comforting in a lot of ways, because that will get answered, God willing, in heaven, and you'll sort of, there'll be like this reveal, and it's different than seeing your grandfather in heaven, where he's got the same jokes and all that stuff, but it's this sort of fulfillment of what wasn't meant to be. And wasn't part of God's plan. And so I do think that that's another great supportive thing, because we've supported our in-laws or, siblings whenever they lose somebody, and then we have a baby.
Yeah. Well, I think that we always assumed, being in the pro-life movement, God's plan for our family would be 12 Karlens, that automatically God loves big families. I mean, he loves babies, of course, but it's not always his plan that we see that on earth. And even, that we have children that are invisible to the rest of the world that we remember, that are our little intercessors. But we shouldn't always assume that God's plan for us is having a million babies. But God's plan is to have the family that is good for us, the family that he intends for us. So that's something that I've always remembered.
We talk a lot about being open to life in this movement, right? And sometimes being open to life, it means being open to not life if it's not the Lord's will.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. And I tell you, when we had our miscarriage of number 9, I felt there was part of me that didn't want to tell anybody, because they're going to be like, you have 8 kids.
Yeah.
Right.
And then you they don't get like, yeah, but that's not what it is. It's that, that we would have had 9. I will say, having a bunch of kids, I'm sure y'all experience this too, and I find it very edifying, of a lot of people coming up and saying, we wish we could have had more, we just were unable to. Like I think there's a much more openness to life now. I can just look at our own marriage of people, how many people commented when we had 3 or 4 or 5 versus now. It's such a positive thing. Yeah. Maybe part of that is like Joe Rogan and Elon running around talking about the demographic winter, and they're like, maybe we should quit criticizing all these, Mormons and Catholics and people that are having a bunch of kids, because otherwise we're going to be Muslim. So I do find that affirming when people say, I wish we wanted to have more kids, but we were unable to.
Well, I think this younger generation, too, is more open to it. I think that when I would tell people a few years ago, I have 5 children, people would practically fall out of their chair, and among younger moms. And now it seems like it's perfectly normal. So I think that that's a fantastic development. Maybe we don't need to be begging these young people to get married and have families.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's great. It's great. The suffering is great. It's not fun at the time, but you come out and you're definitely stronger, and you appreciate the great gift of life. I have some housekeeping things I need to cover with y'all. Is there anything else on this topic you want to cover? Because I feel like I was supposed to ask a few questions the listeners interested in, and I need to get to those.
Oh, yeah.
Mainly of Laura.
I would. Oh, great. I'm sure this will be a magical experience. I would just add, I think one of the things, I touched on this a little bit before, where I said Laura doesn't have a 501c3. There's not like a big fundraising operation, all that sort of thing. The reason that I harped on that a little bit is because I think it goes to show that anybody can do this, and everybody in their personal lives are called to do this. Like, maybe you're not going to start a thing and put together these gifts and all of that, but I think if there's something that comes out of this podcast that's beneficial, it's an awareness of the silence is not helpful, and being willing to discuss and reach out, and the power of presence is there. And the proof in the pudding, I guess, of that is when we had Christmas, I started noticing the mail, the Christmas cards that would come, and it would be like the card, but both sides would be handwritten little, like, I can't tell you how much this means to me. You really helped us, that sort of thing. And so all you're really doing is being a friend. And I think that's my admonition to the listener is maybe you have good intentions if you're like all of us who tend to like, well, we don't want to bring up bad memories. As you've said so simply, people want to talk about it.
Yeah, being a friend. There's this at these, this time in history, people don't know how to be friends. They know how to send an email or send a text message, but just show some warmth.
Emoji.
Yeah, show some compassion, show some warmth. There are going to be women crossing our paths all the time that are going through this. And so even if you don't know, you say a little prayer for the person who's having a bad day or who's rude. Maybe this is the reason. And try to remember, if you know of somebody who's had a miscarriage, even if you don't know what the anniversary is, just letting that person know, hey, I haven't forgotten. We don't need to dwell on it, but I haven't forgotten. I see you. I think that's important.
Yeah, it goes a long way. I mean, we didn't talk about it on the podcast, but I realized this in a second fashion where I was absent from the podcast for a while at the end of last summer in the falls because we lost my mom suddenly and unexpectedly. And it made me realize in that moment that maybe I thought I was a good friend and I wasn't that good of a friend, because every last person, however close I was or however distant I was, that reached out and said, hey, we're praying for you. Hey, I'm thinking about you. Hey, how are you doing? 6 months later pass and they check in. Hey, how are you doing? Like, it means so much. And that's exactly what you're finding out with these moms.
Absolutely. Yeah, just remembering. We don't want our children's names to pass away from memory. Like, we don't want our loved ones' memories to pass away. So when we say, I remember, this person is still with us, it makes a huge difference to people.
It's absolutely beautiful. Sorry, I'm laughing because when we bring up your mom, it's still my great experience of meeting her for the first time, which I've shared on the podcast. And so when Father Mark was at her Requiem Mass, and he used the word volume.
Yes.
Like noise. I was like, I love it. The symposium. Where's Stephen? Like, I think she calls him Stephen.
Yes.
It's great. Sure. Okay, so I've got a couple of little personal questions because I know the audience is dying to know. So Steve asked you out on the first date. What's that like?
Well, I made my friend tell him that I liked him first. And then
like the 8th grade thing.
He made me restate that I liked him before he asked me out.
This is not good.
Yeah. No, she really likes you.
Podcast is a bad idea.
Do the same. Okay.
So he said, is it true that you like me? And I said, yes. And then he's like, okay, well, that was fine after that.
But Laura was cool, and
I know you were not. I think that's been documented.
So my approach to this was, she's going to find out. I need to at least get some dating experience. So maybe when the next girl comes along after she dumps me, I'll know how to act right.
Yes, this was like, you're going, well, of course this won't work out, right? She's going to break it. That's not even on the table, but I'll be better for it, and I'll meet. Okay, that was
Yeah,
great.
it's like, you suffer a tough loss in the playoffs, but then you're primed the next year.
Exactly. The next year you get a couple draft picks and put it together. So what'd y'all do on your first date?
We went to Hoosnoos Mediterranean Restaurant.
Doesn't exist anymore. Hoosnoos.
Hoosnoos. It was on State Street, the little pedestrian mall area in Madison.
Okay.
But I want to jump in here. I was not interested in him at first. So we met. And the very first time I met him, this is happening. The very first time I met him, we were picking classes. And this guy is red in the face. He is stressing about classes. And I was just
this is great.
This is easy. I'm just going to pick these classes. I don't know why this guy's neurotic over here. Which was interesting because then once we were in class together, he was the guy who was always talking about, I need a beer. And I was like, and he would roll out of bed. He's a nighttime showerer, so that was fine. But he'd roll out of bed like all disheveled to talk about how he needed a beer. And I was so not impressed by that.
I also didn't drink at the time.
He didn't. So once I realized, I just
thought it was funny to say.
That was the important
You just
thing.
thought it was that's even worse. That Nerdville. It's like, what would a cool guy say? I need a beer, man. Oh, that's great.
So once I realized that he didn't actually need a beer, then I was interested in him.
Well, then it's kind of clever. He's like, oh, he's trying to be funny.
Yeah. Yes. And I like that about him. And then he was in a garage band. So.
Oh, you were into that.
I liked it.
Wow. Okay.
I mean, this was
the
early
chicks
2000s.
love the music.
It wasn't when he wore the leather pants. I don't know that the leather pants
my
would have gone well,
word.
but
Are
Leather
there
pants were and are cool.
photos of that? I don't want to see the photos.
No, you don't wanna
we
see
probably
them.
need to destroy those if there's evidence. Okay, one other thing that I believe is kind of a myth, and now that I have you here, I want to
Okay.
ask. Okay, so Steve, as you know, rants and raves about all things Chicago, which I love.
lots of ranting.
And he does the like, and my wife is a Bears fan and
Yes.
does the like, that's the only thing wrong with her and all that stuff. Are you really a Bears fan?
Okay, so somebody from Chicago just asked me this question. I have not given up my Bears fandom. I would say I'm a card-carrying Bears fan, but I don't care. And what I really care most about is my life being more convenient and comfortable. So if it means that my son and my husband are not complaining all the time, I will root for the Packers.
Do you have like a Bears sweater or anything? Bears gear?
Yeah, you got that T-shirt.
I've got a T-shirt somewhere
Okay.
deep down in the drawer.
Okay, but it's not like when I know I don't want to bring up bad memories. So the Packers lost to the Bears.
Yeah.
But you're not in your Bears hoodie
No.
watching it with your kids.
No, and Peter was sitting there with us, our oldest, and I was like, yes, when the Packers scored, because I felt bad for him. He was
Because
going to be...
you want what's best for Steve.
I do.
Deep down.
I do.
Well, what didn't you just make it clear that you want what's best for you, which is me not?
Well,
complaining?
Right.
both can be true, right?
I can't relate to certain people like where there's like, oh, they're married, but he's an atheist and, she's a Christian or they're Democrat or Republican. I can't even really relate to that. Mary Lisa and I agree on everything and including sports teams.
Yeah.
And I think it's the opposite. Like I'm totally into the Cowboys and she likes the Cowboys, but I can tell like Sunday we go to church. But you come home and this is what's happening. And like my kids will go and like put on their Cowboys gear to watch the game. It's really, no matter their age, it's actually quite funny and cute. And Mary Lisa will watch it, but I know, like, and she gets into it and she'll even yell at the TV.
Mm-hmm.
But if I just said, I'm never watching the Cowboys ever again, she'd be like, okay.
Yeah.
Like there's no loss there for her.
When Steve's traveling, I don't even know when the Packers are playing.
Right.
I don't even bother finding out. There's a
Right.
refrigerator magnet. I don't even look at the refrigerator
Right.
magnet.
No, one time I was traveling and I called and I asked Mary Lisa what she was doing. She's like, I'm watching the Cowboys. And I'm like, my heart swelled.
Yeah.
I was like, what a great one.
Sorry, babe, that ain't happening.
Well, one of Laura's
That was
great
only once.
cultural experiences was I think it was maybe the first or second Thanksgiving we were married, and the Packers were playing the Lions on Thanksgiving Day. And
The first
Laura,
was I was pregnant with Peter.
Laura was sitting in between my mom and
Oh.
my grandma, who were enthusiastic Packer fans.
Yeah.
And they're like screaming, Laura,
Yeah.
startled from
Yeah.
the shouting.
Yeah. No, that's really, but you're from Chicago, right?
I'm from the suburbs. I mean, people would fight me if I said I was from Chicago.
Yes. But where are you from?
Naperville.
Yeah, Naperville. I've been there many, many times. So
Yeah. Some good pro-lifers in Naperville.
very good pro-life. A lot of good pro-lifers in Northern Illinois, and they're certainly needed. I do want to close out. We got to do some what to say when too, of just the stupidity of these idiots. And I think it's good, and we put it in the book that it's good, that, to wrap our subject up, miscarriage is the same as abortion.
Right.
And so I think there's a tendency of people getting all wound up about that, and you can't.
So I actually just testified at the Wisconsin Assembly on an abortion definition bill because of my work with St. Catherine Ministry, and I testified to the fact that women who are going through miscarriage hate to be lumped in
It's
with
ridiculous.
abortion. It's not the same thing. The D&C, same procedure, but it's like saying that murder is the same as natural death. We just can't.
Well, it's like using a knife to do surgery to save somebody's life or using a knife to kill them.
Right,
It
exactly.
is different. And so I tell people, because they get wound up, and I think initially when we started seeing this nonsense in post-Roe, I would get wound up, and I'm like, this is like when they're saying Coco the monkey is the same as us. Like, you've
Right.
won the argument. Once miscarriage is the same as abortion, it's over. You just leave the room. You've won. So
As the great Rush Limbaugh said, show me the intelligent dolphin that designed a 12-lane highway.
And just to wrap up my little point, the governor of Wisconsin vetoed the abortion definition bill to clarify abortion and miscarriage, so you can see what his politics are.
wow.
Yeah.
Wow. It's wild. Okay, well, thank you for coming.
No,
this
this
is
is
a lot of
delightful.
fun. We need to do this more often.
I have a question though.
Yes.
What does it mean to jig 'em?
Gig 'em.
Gig 'em.
Gig 'em. Gig 'em is like gig 'em.
Okay, so
Like
giving
go
them
get
a-
them.
okay,
Yeah,
all right,
gig 'em.
all right.
So the Aggies to jig jib. Oh, that was really funny.
I knew it was gig, and I just
Gig 'em.
came out
So,
wrong.
yeah, so A&M was a military school.
Okay.
We have multiple mascots. One of them is Old Sarge.
Okay.
So it was an all-male military school, and then they went co-ed. So the Aggie ring, which I have, honors the veterans.
Okay.
So it has the gun and the sword on it and the star.
Okay.
So every student gets an Aggie ring in honor of all those who served. And of course, we have Reveille, that is a dog. And then we have the 12th man, which is the crowd. And
Okay.
it is a copyright. So we had to sue the Seattle Seahawks. But yeah, we're the Aggies. We're farmers.
Okay.
But yeah, Gig 'em is one of the many.
Okay.
But howdy is the official greeting. You have to say howdy when you're going around campus, and people will say howdy to you.
On next week's episode, do we get to find out what whoop means?
Yeah, that's
I've been
that's
coming
a
here for
full,
like 13 years. I still don't know.
Whoop is that's a big deep dive. But one of the things that's really cool about Texas A&M and also frustrating as a fan is that we are known for our hospitality, our Southern hospitality. So when this just happened, when we were back in December, when the Miami Hurricanes came for the playoff, fans will write in and just talk about how nice everybody was and how they became friends with some Aggie fans. You're supposed to give them a hot dog or a beer. If you're tailgating, you're supposed to welcome the other team.
Oh, wow.
So it's a very hospitable, and you go around the SEC, all these fans that travel, because the SEC teams travel very well, and they talk about how great the Aggie fans are because we're really hospitable. So I'm glad for that. I'd like to win more, and so like some of the fans are jerks and
Yeah.
they win more. But yeah, it's a great culture. So maybe one of your kids will come to A&M.
Maybe.
We'll get them brainwashed. So, okay. Well, thank you, Karlens. Please send any of your feedback at podcast@40daysforlife.com, podcast@40daysforlife.com. Please rate, review, and share this episode, and we will see you next time. God bless you.